from their board meeting held on Tuesday. JoeAnn has graciously made her way in. Hi, girl.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fabulous. How are you?
Fabulous. I can't beat fabulous. Can't do that one, but glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Get that a little bit closer to you. You're fine. Just sit back. Relax. All right, very good. So, I know it's still.
It's warm.
It doesn't take long. You open that door a few times, and then comes the heat, and we all are experiencing that right now.
It should be cool down here in the hole.
We are better, yes. And the further back you get, the cooler it does get. Yes, you're right. It is nicer. It does help with the heat
and some crazy heat we've had.
Yeah, beat the heat.
Yes.
It definitely is nicer. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate that. And of course, we're going to talk a little bit about that Board of Directors meeting that was held Tuesday at the hospital library. Before we want to get into that, though, I did want to touch base a little bit because there was a press release that the hospital did approve their budget for the fiscal year coming up, and that had to be a very difficult budget to prepare with everything that happened last year, because budgets are prepared based upon previous year's experiences. I don't think anybody could ever have predicted what COVID would do and how the hospital would have to react, and the money's come and the money's taken and money's distributed here and there. I bet that had to be a real trip trying to put that together.
It was definitely a challenge, and doing it kind of all by yourself is definitely something that is more of a challenge without any assistance from prior leadership. But then I had some good building blocks to grow from, so I think we handled it pretty well.
Very good. But it does take a lot of foresight, because then you're going into another year. You've got a new group in charge. They do things a little bit different than the way it was done in the past. And so you have to kind of mesh that all together, don't you?
You do. But, so we are saving a bunch of money with some new GPOs that RHG has implemented. We're going to save lots of money with that. And the most challenge to get across to the board and to the public is, it's okay to have a negative budget. Most hospitals this year, if they truly forecasted, you're going to have a negative budget. There's a good chance that we're going to spend a little more money than we bring in. We're hoping that is not the case.
Right.
And with bringing on some new providers, which we're real excited about, we forecast that we're actually going to do better, much better than budget. But I wanted the budget to be realistic, and I wanted our leadership team to have a good ground to work from and not feel pressured to be held to something that wasn't a realistic goal.
Sounds like a true accountant. I want the budget realistic.
Yes.
And that is the only way that you can really, when you calculate, when you really come right down to it, if it's not a realistic budget, how do you use that as your roadmap to get through the year?
You can't. And so if you set goals and expectations that are never attainable, that's defeatist, and it brings everybody's morale down, and it doesn't do the employees any good, and it sets the hospital up to fail. So by having a realistic budget, if you can set a goal that's maybe a little below and you think that you can achieve that, and then they can do better than that, then that builds morale, and everybody strives to beat it.
And, business budgets, for those who've never prepared one, and I can't even imagine with the hospital, because you have so many different services. Obviously, the ambulance, emergency department, inpatient services, outpatient services. You're trying to budget all these different departments, divisions, different things that you have where income is and expenses go out. It's like each individual entity you have has their own budget, and then you combine it all for a big budget. And that
Yes.
really is about how you have to work it, isn't it?
It is. I broke every single department down, and you look at salaries and expenses across each individual department, and then you roll the entire thing into what is truly your operating budget.
I can be mind-boggling. I can understand where you're coming from. One of the things that has, when you talk about a lot of hospitals having the negative budgets, a lot of that is the Medicare payback. A lot of people who got the Medicare and hospital, here in Salem would have been possibly in those same shoes, having to pay that back. One of the things that the group has come in, RHG group, that has done is got very aggressive with that, and you yourself got very aggressive with that to make sure it was paid back before you start getting less and less reimbursement from Medicare and then have to pay penalties, right?
Right. So the demand letter from Medicare would have been effective by September, but we're going to exceed getting that paid back. So we will avoid all penalties and interest because we will have it fully paid back well in advance of when it was due.
But there'd be a lot of hospitals out there that's not going to be the case.
That is true. There's going to be a lot of hospitals, and sadly there's a lot of hospitals, small little hospitals like ours, closing all across the state. And there's even larger hospitals that are struggling everywhere because that money, all that advance money that was given wasn't managed well, or no one could have seen that COVID was going to last as long as it did, and things drug out longer with less people coming into the hospital. People are sicker, but nobody wants to get out. And so, you're not seeing the volumes of people that we saw in the past.
And then one of the things when you start talking about all that money that came before with COVID, but also you had a lot more expenses coming with all the, I call them hazmat outfits, as every time an employee of the hospital, whether it be a nurse or physician or even just somebody to come in and clean the room, they had to, if they went into a room where there was a COVID patient, they had to put on the hazmat outfit, and that was slippers, a gown, mask, in some cases even a helmet with the spray protector in the front. I kind of call it face mask, but I don't really like to say that. It sounds kind of, Halloween-ish or so. But as soon as they got done in that room, then they had to strip it all down, throw it all away, go to the next room and put it all back on again. And, when I was in the hospital and I saw this happening, I said, what a waste.
Yes.
There is going to be millions of dollars used one time and thrown away. Now, I grant you, if it was some medicine or something of that nature, I get that. But these hazmat suits, okay, if I've already got COVID and you're already in here and you go to the next one, they've already got COVID, what's the difference? Just to clean. You're not touching them. You're not even near them. And I couldn't quite figure that one out. But I understand where the protocol came from, the CDC and the hospital following everything. It just seemed like such a waste.
And I am sure that somewhere 10 years from now there will be some kind of crazy study about the hazards of the global impact from all of the wasted PPE.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And stuff. But, at times we had to pay $50 for a box of masks because there was such a shortage.
Couldn't find them.
Because you had to have them and you had to get them any way you could because you couldn't operate without them.
Right.
So, we paid some crazy prices for things, and then things have settled down, but now due to inflation, prices are out of control again.
Still very high. But before we jump into this, because we can talk a little bit about the previous fiscal year, why don't we just kind of talk about it now? The hospital did come out on top for the month, but for the year they're going to be short. But that's expected because, as you mentioned during the meeting, had RHG not come in and made the changes that they did and implement some of the new policies, getting new revenues in, the hospital could have lost as much as $3 million, and there probably wouldn't be a hospital right now.
Probably. We would not have had the reserves to sustain the loss at the rate that we were going. Had it not been for RHG coming in, there is no way that the hospital would have survived another month and a half maybe. But they have come in and we've put some plans in place, and we've implemented some policies and some practices that are holding our cash reserves steady, which is a good thing. We've even though we've paid back all this Medicare money, we're maintaining our days cash on hand, which is excellent. Had we not had to pay that money back, we would have actually made money.
Oh, sure.
So
but last year you had that as a non-operating revenue that actually showed the hospital making a profit, when in reality
it
did not make a profit.
No, the extra COVID money that we had gotten the year before, had it not been for that, the hospital would have lost about $6 million. So this year, we kept expenses the same. We would have had a much larger loss of almost $3 million, but as it is, we only lost about $300,000, which I think is a huge improvement from where we were at in February.
Absolutely. So, by the infusion, different policies, different approaches, utilizing a swing bed program much more efficiently and effectively to get monies in, and then also getting the lab back up, because without getting that back up and starting to get a few dollars, that really probably is your $300,000 that you lost for the year, having that pretty well shut down for 4 months, right?
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've just what we've spent in paying Quest to run our lab tests. It could easily be 300,000. So
Yeah, well, I'm sure they want to thank you for that, but it's a reality of the business when you had the government shutting basically a portion of your hospital down, and a key portion of that is used by doctors, it's used by your family clinic, it's used by everybody. They can't really do anything until they get that blood test or get whatever test they need done. And for a lot of people, even still to travel, you have to get a COVID test right before you go.
Yes.
And I know that when we went last year in May on the Virgin Islands, that was a thing that you had to get the result back, and you had to get it back within 3 days of you leaving. Well, we were on a holiday. We were doing it over Memorial Day. Well, nobody's open on Monday.
Right.
So we had to try and get this done Friday. Hope our results are back by
Monday.
Saturday. Or Monday. They said one day. Mine did. Sherry's didn't, and we had to actually, thanks to Salem Hospital, somebody there traced it down through Quest and got that result by Sunday afternoon. Otherwise, couldn't go.
Right. So, and sadly, having the lab shut down, it added an extra layer by having Quest in there. So we don't have those immediate turnaround results, and it slows the process down, which isn't good for our patients and isn't good for the community. So
that note means nothing to me. That's not what I'm looking at with her. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the month. The month was a good month.
yes.
Okay, very good. Inpatient admissions down. There were some things that were down a little bit, but the average length of stay of the swing bed program has gone up and continued to rise, going from basically 6.5 in June of last year to 26 days and
Yes.
2/3.
Yes, utilizing that swing bed program is a huge revenue boost for us. And then being able to, the satisfaction of that on the other side of being able to take care of a patient and treat them and see to all their needs and do it here in a hospital that I feel is like one of the cleanest hospitals you'll ever find, where the employees treat you like family and they help you recuperate. That there is a satisfaction as well.
They're close to home. People know you heal closer or better when you're got family around.
Yes.
I know COVID really hurt that a little bit, but the swing bed program, obviously it is a much needed program. But one of the things I remember Dr. Owl was saying is that a lot of the people that the hospital had approved for privileges, and we'll talk about those in just a minute, they want people to come back to Salem because they know that they heal quicker at home rather than being in a unit in St. Louis or Jeff City or Kansas City or Springfield. When you got that family around you, you have more of a desire to move, get healthy, get back on your feet, do things. Otherwise, you'll kind of lay in bed and you don't really you're not motivated.
Yes. Well, and it's a bigger burden on the family as well.
Oh, sure.
Not everybody can afford to just take off work and go sit with their loved one at a hospital in St. Louis. And you are going to heal faster if you have that family interaction where your family can pop in and out all times of the day and come visit you at the hospital.
And at $5 a gallon gas, that's
Yes.
not exactly an ideal thing to do anyway. So the swing bed program, big plus for the hospital. Some numbers down from budget when we look at some of the statistical analysis for June 22 over June 21, obviously. Things down, radiological procedures down a little bit. We did have Dr. Al on vacation.
Yeah, so Dr. Al, when he goes on vacation, we notice a pretty good decline. When your hospitalist is out and he's the one who admits a lot of your patients,
Right.
when he takes a week off, it kind of affects your numbers. So, but the man works 7 days a week, and so he definitely deserves a vacation,
Sure,
as
absolutely.
everybody does.
Absolutely. Well, one of the nice things that he was mentioning as the meeting got underway, as Dr. Bland and Nadia made it in, is his praise of Dr. Bland, not only seeing her 16, 17 patients a day, but also making sure she's utilizing the Salem Hospital resources to keep patients healthy, unless specialization is needed, obviously. And
Right.
if you need to send somebody off to a cardiologist, you have to do that. But if the test could be done in Salem, it was all done in Salem, utilizing the radiology, utilizing the labs, utilizing what could be done right here in our own hospital. And that's really what the hospital needs to have. It should be all self-contained, shouldn't it?
It should, and our end goal, I think, as we continue to grow and prosper, I would like to see the hospital be a one-stop shop for all of your needs. Now, there's going to be specialties we can't provide.
Sure.
There always is, but I would like to see that anything that a patient possibly needs, could be done right there at the hospital. And for the most part, you can do all those things. I mean, we have a state-of-the-art CT coming. We have a newer MRI than you're going to find
Oh,
many
it's still
places.
new. If it's under 5 years old, it's new.
And so, we have all new lab equipment from our Vitros, a new A1C analyzer. We have the ability to do new PTT tests. So all the equipment that we brought into the lab, we're going to be able to do tests like you have not seen before in the past.
Absolutely. And,
And on all new equipment.
and on new equipment. And one of the things that we mentioned about the MRI, we got that timed in just before COVID, as to where we actually had it, because right now you couldn't get that MRI.
No, there's, and that's the thing. We've been fortunate enough with having RHG to help us that we're able to get our hands on supplies that normally would be pushed out and we wouldn't be able to get.
Absolutely. So a big plus to that. Like I said, a lot of the numbers down just a little bit. Well, with Dr. Al being gone, some of that's going to be. Rehab continues to be strong.
Yeah.
But a lot of that's based on the surgical procedures from previous months. So people say, well, why do these numbers bounce back and forth? Most of them are all interrelated, aren't they?
They are. So, depending on what's happening in the community, what's happening in our very own hospital, our numbers are going to sway up and down. Dr. Al does a lot of cardio procedures, so when he takes a week off, our numbers in the hospital go down, but our cardio pulm goes down as well. If we had a lot of rehab treatments, that rehab department is amazingly
Right.
strong, and Gina Daniels does a great job running it. And so she's over there to see all those swing bed patients, so then when those swing bed patients are up and the visits are up, she's seeing a lot more treatments.
It's really amazing. And then the home health visits at 149 with 12 home health admissions. And that just continues to be a very strong program for Salem Hospital as well. It has been for years.
It is, and we're going to be doing some new marketing and hope to grow it. I'd like to see it almost double, so.
Very good. All right, emergency room, 631. That's been between 6 and 750. That's been pretty much the average. A little bit down, I think, this summer. Maybe people aren't getting out.
Who can afford to go anywhere with $5 gas?
Not many people getting out and about doing things to get hurt, probably getting absolutely sunburned to death. But still, it's there when you need it. And, of course, you get there. 41 people admitted out of the virtually 100 of the patients that were disposed one way or another. A lot of people come in, just have to have something checked.
Yes.
Very simply. We're not talking about everybody goes in there and has to go through a whole protocol of different things. Some people don't. Some people it's just a very simple procedure. But the people who do, very important that you listen to the doctors while you're there. Some people do leave against medical advice. I mean, that's your right. You have that right to do that. But think twice about it, because there can be internal injuries. There can be other things going on. Let them run the gamut of tests they need to, because it's a lot safer to walk out of there knowing you're okay than walking out of there thinking, well, they didn't get to me in 18 minutes. I'm leaving.
Right. And it's kind of unrealistic to think that they're always going to get to you in 18 minutes. Mm-hmm. You don't always know what's going on behind that door and what patient is in there that might be having a stroke.
Sure.
Or a heart attack, or may have just came in from a motor vehicle crash and has extremely serious injuries, and we have to treat those first. So you may have to wait a second, but I will tell you that our wait times are far better than other hospitals.
Yeah. I say, if you think his wait time is long, go to St. Louis on Friday night, and you'll be 4 to 6 hours sitting there, and you might be bleeding, and that's just going to be the way it is. One of the things the hospital has done at the board meetings, though, is give a breakdown of the disposition of the patients. I find that very interesting to see. Not only the age, the man or woman, but also the complaint that they have coming in. Not the diagnosis, but the complaint. Somebody come in, they have a stomach problem. Maybe they feel very hot. Maybe they have palpitations, whatever it might be. And they put that down there. And as Dr. Al mentioned, and I thought that was very good at the board meeting, that's their complaint. That doesn't mean that's what we found.
Right. Well, there's a huge difference from coming in with a stomach ache and on further diagnosis, you realize you have a ruptured bowel that requires immediate surgery. So there's big differences there from I'm feeling a little hot to you're truly having a heart attack. So we don't know based on what the patient presents and they say they have to what the symptom truly is.
But it is nice to see that, people see when they come in, if it says that weakness, abdominal pain, things of that nature, or they come in with severe stomach pain, like you mentioned, and it could be something different. You don't want to play around with that. So many people wait and wait and wait, and that can be the worst solution to your problem. Because the longer you wait, the more, obviously, if you have a bile problem, that's getting into your system, and then they have to go try and flush that out. You've got antibiotics you're going to have to go on, and if you have something that's really out of the ordinary, don't play around with it. It's your life.
That's right.
Yeah.
You need to be treated. If it was important enough for you to come to the emergency room, there's a reason. Give us a few minutes, and we will make sure that you're okay before we send you out the door. I had
a hockey coach that told me, he said, don't play around with injuries. If it's enough to get your attention, it's enough to get somebody else's attention.
That's right.
So if something's bothering you that badly that you feel that you need to tell somebody about it, get to your emergency room or get to your physician and get it checked. Don't be playing around with stuff like that, especially when you get heat like right now. We got heat exhaustion, heat stroke out there. Can be very serious. You don't want to play around with it. If you don't know how to handle yourself in these situations and you get overheated and you stop sweating and you feel faint, you get 911 on the phone. Let them come out, get you, assess you, get you back to where you need to be quickly.
And it's amazing that how quickly something that could seem like you're overheated can go to a life-threatening situation in a matter of seconds.
Yes, it can. So don't play around with it. Let's talk a little bit about the cash on hand. We talked a little bit about the balance sheet and stuff of that nature. So the hospital has solid financials, and one of the things with the cash on hand, as you were mentioning earlier, is the aggressiveness of paying back these bills, but the hospital has been able to maintain that cash on hand, going from 63 days last month to 71 this month, which actually is the U.S. average for critical access hospitals, above Missouri, which 5 months ago we were in the 20s.
Yes.
So we see cash on hand of $5.2 million. That's a major accomplishment for this hospital, isn't it?
It is. It's not an easy task, I will tell you, but it is imperative that you build a strong base so that you can continue to grow services, you can get the equipment you need, you can recruit the doctors, the physicians, the providers that you need, and without a strong base, there's not any future. So.
Very good. So when we start looking at the financials for the hospital, I think when we go through them, people lose track of how many things the hospital has expenses for, and also has the different revenue sources. But I think the contractuals are always what gets them, JoeAnn, because the services are here, but there's contractual agreements with insurance companies, Medicare, things of that nature, that if you get billed $100 in the hospital, they don't see the $100. No.
So, there's a pretty well steady rule of thumb. Medicare pays about 60%, Medicaid pays about 50%, maybe a little 55%. United Healthcare pays about 20 cents on the dollar. So
Blue Cross Blue Shield has their payments.
they have their payments, but the most important thing with that is going through and renegotiating your contracts and making sure those are up to date. And that's one of the things that the hospital had not done previously, but RHG is doing and implementing all new contract negotiations so that we're getting paid fairly for the services we perform.
Well, a few years back when they changed the coding, and I feel that when they changed the coding, there was probably so many, more codes. It went from, 11,000 to 61,000 or 63,000. You know that some insurance companies found a loophole in some of that stuff to not have to pay things because it wasn't coded properly.
Right.
And that's a big thing. And people think, well, how would I know if the code is right or not? You probably won't, because it has to be done right when you get there. They have to determine it, and then they assess it, and then, of course, anything else that they find. So when they submit the bill to the insurance company, it actually has the proper code for the treatment that was given, correct?
Yes. So, and it's really important that not only do our doctors dictate exactly everything that happened to a patient and make sure that that level of care is appropriate, but then you have to have really good coding people that can understand that, interpret that, and code properly so that you get reimbursed for every amount you can get.
But can you imagine having to learn 50,000 new codes?
I have taken the course, and it's not as bad as you think. It's manageable. They break it down into sections of the body. It makes it a little easier.
Yeah, like the finger was hurt. Which finger? How was it hurt? And all that. Yeah, I was pretty amazed when I saw that breakdown. I thought, seriously? Yeah. but it does kind of give you a better idea of why somebody got hurt and what the treatment is. So very good. We do want to say, as we mentioned, we had a positive month for the hospital. Again, $339,855 plus, and there was some lingering tax that came in. It went to $343. It's always good to get the lingering taxes in there. That's
just a little bit. Every little bit helps.
Yeah, and then we'll have the sale of some properties that'll be coming up here, and so it'll be a little bit more at the end of August. You'll see that coming in, but that's something that we always hate to see. Courthouse sales on the steps, but it is a tax sale, so remember, you have a year to pay that back and you can get your property back. A little secret they don't usually tell people. Yeah, all you gotta do is pay that back. They have to give you the property back. But when I look at the 339, we've been pretty close to the 300,000 range the last 3 months, coming in with a revenues over expenses. I hate when people say it's making a profit. No, it's revenues over expenses. I said it's not for profit accounting. You're not supposed to make a profit.
Well, you're not supposed to make a profit. However, you have to make some kind of profit to keep the doors open. Well, you can't continuously lose money.
No. Well, you know what I mean. But here's the thing about not for profit accounting. Most people don't realize within 3 to 5 years, you have to take the money you have as a profit, you have to reinvest it back into your facilities, and that's what the whole idea behind it is. That you can pay people more money. You operate just like a regular business, but it is concentrating to keep that facility going in a reasonable way where the monies are reinvested.
It is, and having a 50-year-old hospital, it's very easy to reinvest because everything needs a little help here and there.
Yeah. And it's not the same facility 50 years ago that it is today. There's been a couple buildings pop up here and there, and a little change here, and a little change there, and new plumbing put in, and oh, Lord Almighty,
Yeah, you'd be surprised, though. We have 50-year-old air conditioners still sitting on the roof and still running.
Well, I know it, but they did change the roof out, or are they still in the process of doing that? Didn't they replace all that roof and some of those items?
We've patched the roof. We have not completely replaced the roof, and we are looking to get a USDA grant. And we're hoping with that because there's little to no interest rate with some of those loans. Right. And some grant funding to make some major repairs. A new roof for a hospital is like $1 million.
I know, yeah.
So we're hoping to be able to get.
I think that was the air conditioner was 2 point something, 2.6. If I wasn't, when they did a bid here a couple of years back, that was a couple of years back. I don't even have any idea what it'd be now. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah,
everything's gone up.
Everything costs a lot of money. So I'm not going to try and bore people with everything through the financials, but everything is good. We did mention the expenses stayed pretty consistent. from one year to the last when we talked about the budget, which is fantastic, and that is one of the reasons why we are seeing this. As you guys have done a great job of keeping our eye on the expenses. The group has done a great job of finding other suppliers to get things at a cheaper cost.
Yes.
And also working with the employee medical program, I believe, to help save money there when employees have to buy their medicines.
Well, we are working on that. Still
Yeah,
a work in progress.
I'm sure that's a work in progress, but that's going to be another savings program.
Yes, we look every day at how we can save some money, and for an operation to say that they held their expenses in line from one year to the next
With this
rising inflation and COVID going on,
Yeah.
I think that's saying a lot.
It is. You guys have done a tremendous job. Tip of my cap to you.
Why,
Very
thank you.
good. Very good. So let's also talk a little bit about what your responsibilities are. CFO's fun, isn't it? Your responsibilities, because you have to deal with the auditors when they come in. Obviously, you've seen this in the past, and we've seen BKD come in and make trillions of changes, adjustments, and some as many as $7 million worth out 1 year. And I thought, what? That was crazy. But you are working right now with them to get everything in the hospital flowing to where everything is accounted for on an even keel basis. So there are no adjustments at the end of the year. There's no
That's right.
surprises waiting for anybody. So you don't come to the board and say, yeah, we had a great year. We made $4 million, but we're going to have to pay $7 million. Like,
Yeah.
what? That's not a good year.
The goal in accounting, in my opinion, is to be completely transparent, and everything should flow and work so that you don't see any large swings at
Sure.
the end of the year. So for the past several months, we have worked with Jean Nyberg from BKD, which is now Forvis. And every
That's now
month,
changed name to Forvis. Okay,
It
I was
is.
wondering why Forvis was there.
Forward Vision. They have come in every month, and she is reviewing our financials every month
Okay.
so that we know we're in the right place. But other than that, too, we're fixing some broken practices so that we don't have huge swings going forward, and repairing some practices that I probably have been broken for quite some time.
Well, and things have to be updated. Accounting is a fluctuating art as well.
It is.
It doesn't stay. People think, well, bookkeeping is bookkeeping. Well, yeah, assets, liabilities, yeah, it's all about the same stuff. But it's how you interpret those assets, liabilities, your cash coming in. For one example, capitalizing the POB basement improvements and also the MRI building addition and improvements there. Capitalizing it. People may not know what that means, but you're not expensing them out. You're capitalizing them, aren't you?
Right. So when you take it from a construction in progress or completely expensing it out and you turn it into an asset, now you get to take depreciation on that,
Right.
and that adds back to your bottom line.
Oh.
So those kind of changes are huge, and if they're not taken care of in a timely fashion, you're missing out on capturing lost money.
And the thing is about that is that also helps you when people say depreciation. They may not understand that that's a non-cash outlay. Yes, you've already paid for it, but now in future years you're deducting that out, and you've already paid for it. Now everything that you're still getting an expense on with that depreciation, now you're not paying for it.
Right.
You just get the expense, and you get to actually save that money from going into Uncle Sam's hands.
That's right.
Somehow, some way.
You get to capture some of that back and
Absolutely.
add back to your bottom line.
All right, so when we talk about that, that's very important, and I hope people understand that. It doesn't sound like much. I said, well, it doesn't sound like much. There's a lot of money tied up in that MRI improvement. And Physician Office Building 3 basement improvements, you took me on a tour of that. Very nicely done, and that was all done in staff, wasn't it
Yep.
not?
We didn't have to hire any outside labor. Todd and his group do an amazing job. They do beautiful work.
Yeah, they do work. That's great.
And by doing that, we only had the expense of materials out. So we managed to renovate, I don't know how many square feet that is off the top of my head. I
Yeah,
have it
that's
somewhere
a
on a
lot, yeah.
diagram. But I would say probably 7,000 square feet.
That would probably be pretty close, I would think. Yes.
We managed to renovate the entire thing with electric, wiring, plumbing, flooring, new walls, even new office equipment for $50,000. So hats off to Todd for what he could
Absolutely.
do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And of course, talked about you working with things to make sure when you're working with Gene and you go through these things, you want to make sure that any of the debts that's all correct, those balances are correct, as well as your capitalization to make sure that that's all correct. And then the leases. That's why there's a lot of lease buybacks. They have lease purchases, and sometimes they just have a straight lease. You want to make sure all those are correct too and right up to date, don't you?
You do. And one of the things you have to prove during an audit, so at the end of the year, you have to make sure that what that leaseholder or what that loan agreement says matches whatever you have for every single piece of equipment that you have. And in a hospital, it's quite a bit. So
A lot of equipment.
having those balances trued up and making sure, that those are correct doesn't sound like much, but it's a huge thing to make sure that's all right.
That's a big thing because it's easy to make a mistake on that. Very easy. So very good. Outstanding balance sheet. I want to thank you for that extra work because that is a lot of things that you can isolate a problem very quickly if something looks out of line now, because if you've got everything where it's supposed to flow very, very smoothly and you get something that just stands out.
Yes.
Well, wait a minute. Why is that there? That doesn't belong there. Or that doesn't look right. Let's check that out.
Having a proven and clean set of books is an amazing feeling, and it should add a lot of trust from the community, from the board, to say that we know we're doing a good job running the hospital, and people can trust in us that we're taking care of them.
So BK Fervis, sorry, you'll be working with them doing their annual audit.
Yes.
Now, you've been working with Gene, but now the annual audit comes into play, which is usually given at the November board meeting, if I'm not mistaken. I think last year it actually done during December. They couldn't have anybody there for that meeting, but it's usually done during November board meeting. But you'll be working with Gene probably next month, August?
Yeah, so the end of August, we've already ramped up. They send a board schedule of audit, and so we actually, the accounting staff and I went out to lunch yesterday, and we split all the tasks up because it's a 6-page list of what you get audited on, and so we can start gathering that information. And so we've already started, but we'll have them on site for a week about the end of August.
Very good. So that'll be fun. I mean, but right now you've got pretty much everything already done, right?
We went through, Gene and I spent 8.5 hours the other Friday, and we went through almost every account on the balance sheet. So I feel really, really good that we're in an excellent place, and it should be a piece of cake.
Piece of cake for them, too. I bet you they appreciate that a lot. All right, real quickly, let's go through a few of the things. Telemetry is being installed next week, right?
Yes, so we have
clinic?
new telemetry, which was sadly needed. That kind of technology wears out fast, and things change. And anytime you have a machine that's speaking to a monitoring system several 100 feet away, there's opportunity for things to not function like it ought to, considering all the data it's doing. So we've had to restrict the beds because the machinery was old. So we have a brand new telemetry system coming in the acute back in med-surg, and also in our emergency room.
Right, and they're gonna be training all next week on
next
that.
week.
And John Sawyer was hired back in June, at the end of June, for med-surg, and the ED clinical supervisor, Sammy Smith, stepped down from that now to be a part-time clinical informatics specialist, which was needed.
Yes. So there's our EHR, our electronic health record system, there's a lot of pieces of it that IT does an amazing job, but there's clinical pieces of it that you really need a nurse or somebody who's schooled in medicine to make decisions, and there's things that IT just doesn't understand.
Right, I get that.
So you need somebody who's tech savvy, but also knows the medical side.
Very good, and that's great. We still need some nurses, and that's always going to be the case. A couple of full-time night shifts in the med-surg, a PRN day shift, and then one full-time night shift in the emergency department. So if you're a nurse out there and looking for a position, contact Ashley.
And we have a great pay scale. I mean, I think most nurses, if they come and ask, you'll find that we have an amazing pay scale. And it's in line with where you want to be.
Very good. All right, COVID cases, we had 44 as of July 19th. Who knows where that is today? And 9.35% positivity rate. And continue to watch the hospital, because if the positivity rate should shoot up, there could be some changes in the policies for the hospital. So always want to watch out for that. If we get notified of that, we put it out as quickly as we can. But you can watch them on Facebook and check out smdh.net as well. They will keep you up to date on that. Golf tournament came in with a nice profit, didn't it?
We did a good, it's amazing what the community gives. We are so appreciative because we put that money to good use. And it is amazing how quickly everybody chipped in. And Jason Edwards, I don't know what we'd do without him. He is just the best guy.
Go right to his head.
But he's a great guy. He almost single-handedly organizes that thing every year, year after year, and he does an amazing job.
He does. Really does. He does a fantastic job. Jason is one of those guys really people just don't say no to. He comes in and
he is a great guy.
Schmoozes you to death. I mean, he's a good guy. Really is. I've known Jason for a long time, since he was a little guy.
Little guy.
And then he got to be a big guy, and now he's
kind of
smaller.
Tall
Yeah, but I mean, he was a big guy. Now when he played baseball, he was 240.
Really? I've never seen that, Jason.
Yeah, he was a big boy. Cornhole Tournament, they're talking about doing one in September or October, and that'll be a much welcome, another event that the foundation can use a few extra funds on, and you're more than welcome to participate.
Yeah, we don't have a venue yet. We're hoping to find a venue, and we don't have a date exactly. The end of September, first part of October, but we're actively searching for a venue.
All right, very good. And then Wanda Tatum became the representative for the board for the foundation. She's been sitting in, hasn't she?
She's been filling in for Ray Bruno, who was elected as a member, and Ray's,
his hours
he works
have changed,
over
right?
in Texas County, and he sees patients on Wednesday, so it's hard for him to get to a foundation board meeting. So Wanda had been covering. She does a wonderful job, and she's very engaged, and so I'm glad to see her remain.
All right, very good. Wonderful. That's fantastic. All right, so Shelly Bland was down at Ellington about a week and a half ago. She's going to be in Viburnum here, I believe, this week. Might be today. Anyway, I'm not sure. Can't remember the date.
I know she's all over.
Right, yeah. She's going to hit a number of different outlying locations to make sure about sports physicals. And she had 24 at the Ellington High School. 3 of those families have moved their services over to SMDH Family Medicine, which is fantastic. And that's the kind of outreach that the hospital needs to continue on a long-term basis, don't they?
It is, and that's the kind of things that I'm not sure we were doing a great job at promoting in the past always, but we have some great providers coming on, and so getting out in the community and showing that we are here, we are a presence, and helping families, that to me speaks volumes. Right.
We also had SMDH representative at the 4-H FFA Expo. They helped out with some extra cash for some of the animals that were there. They also bought a pie. They still have not seen that pie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure where Jennifer and that pie wound up.
Yeah, nobody's seen it though, right? No, I guess. Well, whatever. It's going to a good cause, and overall, we got the final numbers the other day on that. It was over $380,000 raised at that for the kids and 4-H. And Junior Livestock Committee does a tremendous job with that. And we just want to tip our cap to all the 4-H FFA members who participate, to Heather at the 4-H FFA program. But again, Junior Livestock Committee does a great job with that, putting that all together. And also to Amy Glenn up at Extension with the 4-H program. That's a lot of work.
A lot of work. And those kiddos, they work hard and they do a great job. And boy, it was sure fun to see their pictures on Facebook.
And it was hot.
Yes.
But thank goodness we got that auction done right around noon. Because by Saturday afternoon at 4, it was blistering. It was bad out there. So I want to thank everybody, all the buyers who make it possible, because without you, it doesn't happen. And of course, the kids and the great work that they do. So at the medical staff meeting on July 18th, we got a few additions, don't we?
We do. We have several. And, that is the biggest way to continue our hospital and to offer services that as a small town hospital, we can't have a top cardiothoracic surgeon. We can't afford one of those.
What, Jimmie? Come on. A little bit more schooling, buddy.
Well, I guess I could get back at it, you know.
I'm still going to school. You can too.
Thanks, JoeAnn. Appreciate that.
But, you know, Dr. Al has, from working in St. Louis for
Right.
years, he has connections everywhere, and he has some top-notch friends and top-notch associations,
And surgeons.
surgeons, and he is partnering with those people and bringing them here to our small community. And how can we not be excited about that?
No, that was amazing when he was telling me about that. They come from WashU,
Yeah.
and you know you're gonna
Doesn't get any better.
Doesn't get much better than that. And two different thoracic surgeons. It's a hard word to say. Anyway, I don't have to say it very often. So
Thank goodness, right?
yeah, very good. But it's good to have the two doctors there. We got a new teleradiologist that's on board now. It's got their privileges now, as well as Shannon Jennings in telepsych and Brian Tessero, the emergency department. LifeStat. What is LifeStat with emergency department? Can you
So-
explain that?
Yeah, LifeStat has, they're a great group of physicians, and they have been providing a lot of our ER docs. So,
Okay.
you know, in the community, people don't realize that it's hard to find an ER doctor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So we've been partnered with LifeStat for
Okay.
more than a decade, so to provide some of those doctors. So Dr. Tessaro is coming on to help provide fill some of those slots, but we're also hiring outside ER doctors. We have some coming from Cape Girardeau to come and help and fill in a couple of days. So.
Very good. Mark Frankie, optometrist for long-term care. That's a new one that's been given privileges. Justin Hornbeck, another emergency department DO. Christopher Baldwin, a gynecologist, which that's been needed here for a long time,
Which
right?
is great, and he's coming from Texas County, so that's great that they're sharing their doctors with us and that we can share with them.
That's been planned, I think, for some time
some
now,
time.
and I finally got it done. And then James Neely for the clinic and hospitalist, and he's going to be coming on board as well, isn't he?
He is, you know, we are super excited to have Dr. Neely call us and just say, you know what, I think I want to be a part of your hospital, and we want to come. You know, he's from Rolla,
Right.
and has raised his kids in Rolla, and just want to join our team. So that's huge, and he's going to be joining the clinic with Jimmie here.
So while we have that with these new guys, we have Jimmie Bell here. Doc. Hello, Doc. Good to see you.
Well, it's good to be here. I'll tell you what, though, Stan, if I didn't know that I had to follow the greatest CFO here today, and then I got to come in here and talk about somebody's mammogram or prostate evaluation, I probably wouldn't come here today.
Well, you
know
don't
that?
have to talk about anybody's
Oh,
prostate
okay.
evaluation. Nor do you have to perform a test here either.
It's great to be here.
Thank you very much. Well, Jimmie, it's great that you're becoming part of the SMDH family, and I heard a lot of good things about the move over for you, and congratulations for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Have you had a chance to associate? I know you know everybody over there. It's not obviously that goes second nature. But have you had a chance to kind of get in there, start getting your feet wet, working with some of the people, kind of talking to them a little bit, and just see how this is all going to work for you?
Oh yeah, we're getting oriented. My two nurses will be there next week, Lori Hastings and Tabitha Schaefer.
Okay.
So we're going to start computer training, and then we'll actually go live clinic August 1st. And so we have transferred many hundreds already
Wow, that's fantastic.
of records from over at my previous place, Phelps Health. I'd been over there since 2008.
We have over 200 appointments already set up and scheduled.
That's wonderful. Now, I do want to pass this on because Tiffin Felgerson called and wanted to remind everybody, and I guess for anybody at SMDH Family Medicine, that there is going to be a transition in place, right?
There is.
They're
It is
going.
a
They're going
huge
from all
transition.
scripts to CPSI, right? Am I not?
It is.
Okay.
So August 1st, we're going to go to CPSI so that everybody, you know, it's going to be huge for us. It's going to be a little struggle. Everybody be patient with us. But the end benefit of that is we're going to be on one electronic health record. So right now, when you have a lab test or a CT or MRI, Allscripts does not talk to CPSI.
We've been going through that, my
For
gosh.
years.
I mean, years ago when Casey came on
Yep.
to do that was the major problem back then. All scripts and CPSI wouldn't talk to each other, and they tried for years to try and get some kind of language to do it, and never did work, did it?
No, and there was never going to be a language. So we have taken on the CPSI medical clinic portion, and
Okay.
I tell you, it is going to be amazing that your records, your lab results, everything are going to be at a fingertip. Your electronic health record now is going to be one record that's all inclusive. It's going to include your visits at the clinic as well as all your hospital work all in one place and right at the fingertips of the doctors.
But because of this changeover, obviously all your new patients are going to be good, but for the other patients who are already there, they're going to have to come and update their information, aren't they?
They are. So, people, I know it's a hassle. I don't like to fill out all those forms again, but really it's a requirement. And we're required by law, really, to ask for your insurance card
Sure.
and proof of who you are with every visit, because there's so much
changes.
fraud.
Yeah, it changes all the time.
Yeah, well, your insurance can change and you really don't think of it. But also, there's so much fraud now. People steal your identity, and one of the things they do is they steal your medical information, and then they sell that. That actually happened to a family member of ours. Their
Really?
medical, so my mother-in-law, her medical information, her Medicare information was stolen, and we all of a sudden started getting all these bills from a woman in Louisiana having all these surgeries.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
That would get my attention.
So we called and we said, well, that's really interesting. They said, well, did she visit Louisiana? And I said, only if it was from the grave, because she had passed away the year before. But that's the kind of things that are happening today.
wow.
It's very scary. So, it is a pain to drag out your insurance card and your driver's license and prove you're you. But those are the kind of things that sadly are happening in today's world. So.
And all of your contact information as well. All needs
Yeah.
to be updated. So if you're a patient of Jimmie coming in for the first time, you're probably going to have to fill out all that paperwork.
Yep.
And I know you're going to be a busy guy. You don't have to fill it out for him.
Well,
Or are
Here's-
you going to go out there and do it?
no.
Hey, you're a great
They
guy,
don't want me
Jimmie.
filling out anything, I'm telling you. That is not my cup of tea. But so if I have patients out there listening, and I'm sure some of them are, so realize that we're going to a new organizational hospital system, or computer system, and at the same time we're taking on several hundred patients and getting them into this system.
Yeah.
So if it takes a little bit to get in, a lot of them know how to contact me directly if they've got something that's emergent.
Right.
We'll take care of it, but just be patient. Let us get through these kinks, and within 3 to 6 months, smooth as silk.
Yeah, and this is just great. So anybody who has been a patient of SMDH Family Medicine, and that's me, and you're going to have to go in next time you go in to see your doctor, or if you just go in to get a test or something of that nature, just go up to the clinic and refill out your paperwork. You're going to need to do it. One way or another, you're going to need to do it, so make sure. So
Be patient with us
Be patient.
while we go through that. And we understand that you want to get in and you want to see the doctor, but
Just come in 15
takes us a
minutes
minute.
early. Right, Jimmie? 15?
Well,
Maybe
that sounds
20
like a
for you.
great concept, but
Well, but get there a little bit early and give yourself time to fill out the paperwork. And if you need some help filling it out, you bring somebody with you. If you struggle maybe reading and things of that nature, bring somebody with you who can help you out.
one thing that I always tell my nurses and staff is that none of us know what that patient may be going through that day.
That's exactly
So
right.
if we have a patient that comes in and things just don't seem right, who knows? Financial, personal, emotional issues that we don't take into account for their situation for the day. But 99% of the patients that come in, it's a great transition.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the thing is that people don't usually just go to the clinic just to say hi. There is something wrong. Well, it might be something as easy as a
Exactly.
physical or maybe a immunization or something of that nature. Or, be something a little bit more serious. Maybe they got a
Sure.
little problem. But they're coming in there for a reason. You definitely want to treat them good. Jimmie, while we are on you for a moment here,
Yes, sir.
what are your days and hours going to be over at SMDH Family Medicine?
I'm going to be there Monday through Friday.
Okay, you're going to be there every day.
We'll
Great.
go from the first few months. I'll probably be there about 7:30 till about 10 at night. No, I'm just no, we'll have
Great.
8 to 5 clinic. I'll see a patient every 20 minutes once we get this transition
Sure.
over with, and then I'll take on a couple of new patients a day. But here's another thing, that every patient that I see coming up, we're going to book 30-minute slots for, because they're going to be considered a new patient to get
Sure.
their stuff in the system.
Absolutely.
And so it's going to be a real transition. I did this once before. I went from Mercy and Rolla over to Phelps Health in 2008. We took several hundred of the patients with us, and it took several months to get everything lined out. So I can't stress it enough. Like JoeAnn said, let's have patience, and we'll make this thing work.
Sure.
It's just going to take some finagling, I guess you would call it.
The patients need patience. Oh my goodness
Yeah,
gracious!
yeah.
But work with them. You know, the girls in the office, they do a tremendous job, and I know that it's a hassle to do this. I always say, really, I filled this out last time I was here. Well, we've changed this or that's changed, or my insurance changed, and you do need to go and give them a different insurance card, and it may be the same policy number, but the limits are different.
Sure.
You know, insurance isn't like it used to be 20 years ago. Well, make it 40 years ago, when you got a policy, and if you got it through a typical insurance company for health insurance, that policy didn't change in 5 years. It was the same policy. That doesn't happen anymore. Now, every year you're on the marketplace trying to find a better deal, and a lot of times, and I'll be honest, you think you're getting a better deal, and you might even be spending a little bit more money, but it doesn't reach one of the things that maybe you needed for yourself, is critical to your insurance, and all of a sudden you're paying these high deductibles, and paying a lot of deductibles, and a lot of deductibles, and a lot of deductibles, just to try and reach that $5 or $6 or $7 or $8,000 limit.
Stan, you asked me if I'd had a chance to get in and look at the inner workings and deal with the people and stuff. And
Oh yeah,
you know, I tell every patient that comes and sees me, I work for you. And I mean that.
that's true.
I mean, if the best person for a surgery is here in Salem, great. If it's not, if it's in Columbia, I've had the blessed opportunity to find some great people in St. Louis, Springfield, Columbia. That's where I refer these patients. I got a guy that does most of the knees, a guy that does the shoulders. But anyhow, my point I was saying was what JoeAnn said. I'm amazed at the foundation they're putting together here at Salem, with the lab values being affordable.
Right.
The MRI is probably half the cost, or a CT scan, as some other places.
Right, and with an open bore as big
So-
as ours is, it's a lot more
Yeah.
comfortable than going to some of those other MRIs where you feel like a sardine.
So I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I'm going to have several hundred patients that are going to make that 18 or 20 mile drive from Rolla to Salem. So I sat and I thought long and hard about this. I thought, I'm not going to make these guys. You know, if they're from Rolla and they do CT, I'm still going to schedule what I need to in Rolla. Yes, I would love to put everything through our CT or MRI department or labs, but I'm going to work for the patient. But then you just touched on something. If their first $4,000 or $5,000 is out of their pocket, and an MRI is $1,000 here and it's $3,100 at another facility, I don't think they're going to mind that 18-mile drive back over here to do that MRI.
Even with $5 gas.
Exactly. So, and that's the sad part now,
Yeah.
is everyone has an insurance card, but do they really have any insurance?
That's exactly right, Jimmie.
So
Exactly right.
we have a great thing started. She touched on Dr. Neely, top-notch guy. Ran for governor a couple years ago, been a state representative up at Cameron, but a great physician. And he's really excited to come on. Him and I had a long conversation the other day. I've known him for several years.
Wow.
And myself, him, the ones that are already in place, this hospital is going to see a big change in the next 1 to 3 years.
When you see the people that they're bringing in to help, you know, the thoracic surgeons, we would never have possibly ever have seen that before without the connections of people like yourself, Jimmie, and Dr. Al. This is how you grow your facility, but also when you get better people in and people know those services are available, they gravitate toward that location, don't they?
Yeah, I really, really, really want everyone that's listening today to hear what I'm about to say. A facility is only a building.
That's right.
What makes the place great are the people inside of it. And I'm going to do everything I can, and I think everyone in place right now are already in the process of bringing the greatest people we can. That's what it's all about. We fill these walls with great providers, great nurses, great staff across the board, and we become the best hospital in the next 1 to 3 years within a 100-mile radius. And I truly believe that. It's all about patient care, customer service, and if you do that, you won't hear people in the community saying, well, I wouldn't take anybody here or there. They're going to say, we're not going to think about passing up Salem Hospital because the best care is going on there.
That's right.
And I mean that.
That's right. Got a lot of great people. And I already kind of feel that way. I was going to bring my father down from Mercy in St. Louis after his last bout. And I said, I'm tired of dealing with these idiots up here because they're telling me one story one day. One doctor's telling me this. Next doctor's telling me this. And I said, what? I mean, he's 94. You're telling him a story to make him happy, but you're not telling me the truth. And I said, and then the home health care, the health care that he was undergoing in his swing bed, I said, you're not even getting attention. He needs to be down. He needs to be where he's going to get attention. And I said, I guarantee I know he's going to get attention. Unfortunately, his kidneys then shut down and he passed. But I was at that point. I said, I am tired of dealing with the big city stuff. I can't do it anymore. He wanted to stay close to his home, but after he realized he wasn't going to be able to pretty much be able to go back home, I told him, I said, I've got a great place you can go. And they're a lot more friendly. And I said, and I'm 5 minutes from you at any time during the day.
Exactly.
I can go out there. If you need something, I can be there. And, people don't get it. 94-year-old man who would feel lonely. He wouldn't feel lonely very long because he'd get to know everybody. That was the way my dad was. But if he needed me, right now when he needed me, he had to call down here. It's going to be 2 hours before I could get there, and then 2 hours before I got there. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah. I always tell all my patients, I've got a half a brain. But the communication thing, we communicate. And when they come in, I like for them to do the labs and testing ahead of time. We sit down and look eye to eye. We go over everything so that when they leave, they understand. And I tell all the patients, please make a list between visits. Bring that in so we can cover everything. And, I may be in there 45 minutes to an hour with some of them. But I'm internal medicine, so most of my patients are older, heart disease, diabetes, multiple problems. So it takes a little more time.
Sure.
But Dr. Neely's used to a large clientele. He's family practice. So with what's on board, we're going to get things rolling.
We had a discussion here in our last interview for the hospital. Every Wednesday usually, except for this week, they send somebody. And we like to talk to the nurse practitioners, the doctors when they come in. One of the things, and we had Shelly Bland in here, and she was telling us about going down, is being honest with your doctor.
Exactly.
Don't go in. I mean, if you got things wrong, if you got a headache, backache, neck ache, hand ache, and you're sitting there going, well, I'm going to tell them about my back, but I'm not going to tell them about the other three. Why not? You're there for a reason. List what you've got problems with, and even if there's a drug interaction, maybe you've got a type of, maybe you've prescribed a prescription for them, and they take it, and they get very hot or they get flushed or something of that nature. It may not be a normal reaction to that drug, but everybody's different. And if they don't tell you, the doctor, how are you going to know that that's a problem? And then when you tell them, well, how's your medication? Well, doctor, I stopped taking it because I got flushed and my whole ears were ringing and everything else. And you didn't call me?
Yeah. You know who's worst about that, Stan? The guys. When I go into a room and there's a guy there and his wife's come for the visit, I know she's there to tell.
The secrets will be out.
The secrets of marriage.
But it's important that people understand your physician's not there to chastise you. He's there to help you, or she's there to help you.
And I'm going to apologize because sometimes
you should.
Exactly. But sometimes the things that you said you encountered in St. Louis with your father, we're there for the patient. And that's not always the case. I mean, you're going to run into people, even in the healthcare world, that their number one focus should be the patient. No, but unfortunately, it's not across the board.
No, it wasn't. But, it was all about the money.
Yeah, that's why I say, I tell patients when they come see me, I work for you. And I want to know what's going on, and I want to keep them. I've always focused on prevention. And if I can get those really sick patients to come in every 3 to 4 months, we can stay ahead of the problems, and we can keep them home where they belong, not in a long-term care or a hospital bed.
One of the things, and I love talking to Dr. Al about that. He wants to be a primary care physician.
Sure.
He wants everybody to get the care, just like you're saying, Jimmie. Prevention
Yes.
is so much better than treatment, because if you don't have the problem to begin with, we don't have to worry about treating it. And if we do find out about it early enough, we'll find the cause of that, get the cause corrected, and not just give you a pill to cover the pain and say, well, let me know in a week and a half if you still have it. Hey, you're not doing anything. If somebody's giving me some kind of painkiller, in a week and a half, I still have the problem. It's just, well, is the pain still just as bad? Well, yeah, we didn't do anything.
I know JoeAnn doesn't want to hear this. She's liable to pull out a wiffle ball bat and start using it or something. But
we have a hockey stick out front, Jimmie.
yeah, exactly. But I want the lowest hospital rate for all my patients. I want them to be home. I don't want them laying in a hospital bed.
Sure.
I know that makes bucks, and it's got to balance out and everything. But if I can keep them home, that's where they belong.
But when the people need the hospital, it's nice to know it's there.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
and I would say that as all of our doctors at the hospital, we want our patients to be healthy.
Absolutely.
We
Exactly.
want to treat them and provide the very best care we can, but we want to treat you and get you out of the hospital. Yes, the hospital has to make money, but I don't think there's a patient or a doctor in our hospital that their patient being healthy and getting better is not their number one priority.
And that's the way it should be. And I think that's where Salem is different than so many other hospitals, a smaller hospital. And I really found a lot more clarity being here, because when I go in and talk to the doctor, and they'll say, okay, what's the issue? And then they may suggest something, and I'll say, tell me why you want to do that. Are we correcting the problem, or are we just masking it for right now? And they'll kind of, you're questioning me? I said, I'm not questioning. I just want to know how we're going to do this, because it is my life. I want to know how it's going to work, so down the road, I'm not going to have this problem. I don't want to keep doing this or taking drugs, because to me, if you're masking something, if you have to take chemicals to get better, if I have to do it, I'll do it. When I had COVID, I had to do it. Okay, I get you. I'll take whatever we need to do to get me healthy again. But once I get healthy, I don't want to be taking that stuff. I want to live life on vegetables, on my food intake, my water intake. I want to live life naturally. I don't want to have to rely on a chemical balance to try and keep me going. Now, I know somewhere down the road that may have to happen.
Sure.
I get it. But as of right now, I don't want it to happen. But if there's ways to get around that, and everybody should want to feel that way. You should want to be able to go out and eat what you want to eat and do what you want to do. You want to stay off dialysis. You don't want to be on this. I mean, Dr. Al told me, he goes, you're about a half inch away from dialysis, son. He goes, that's how close you are. And I'm like, huh? What? Get my attention quick. He said, it's a kick in the head. You go in, if it's going in reverse, if your kidneys back up the other way, we're done.
Yeah.
He goes,
It's all about prevention.
Yeah, and Dr. Al doesn't cut any slack. He goes, and that's going to cut your lifespan maybe anywhere from 18 to 25 years. You got about 5 years left. Mm-hmm. You want to make it a little sugar-coated, a little on that, a little bit.
Yeah, he doesn't sugarcoat much.
When he's telling you this is how it is, it's up to you to do this, but we're going to do our part, but it's up to you to fight as well. You have to fight.
Yeah. People always say to me, what do you think about chiropractors? Or what do you think about holistic medicine? Or what? I think there's a place for a little bit of that, along with chemical, along with regular doctor visits. Mm-hmm. It's all a balance that we have to keep. Yes, if you need to go get adjusted at your chiropractor, great. And they'll usually tell them, if 2 or 3 times, they'll say, I think you need to see your primary and maybe get an X-ray or an MRI. And we all work together on that.
Exactly.
I tell all my patients, one of the biggest things, exercise. If we lose your legs, we're going to lose you.
Yeah. It's hard to convince people that, it hurts to get up and move. I know it hurts to get up and move. The reason it hurts to get up and move because you're not moving.
Sure.
That's why it hurts to get up and
right.
move. Yeah. If you keep moving, I had some knee issues here a few years back, and I actually went and got some stem cell stuff done. It's helped. It hasn't cured it.
Sure.
But I told Bobby, I said, here, when I get on a little bit later on here next year, I'm going to come in. I want to get those MRIs. I'm going to pay for them. And I want to see what's going on in my knees.
There you go.
And not have to worry about my insurance and have to pay that deductible like you're talking about. And I said, let's see what's exactly in there. Years ago, I had everything done, and even when I did my stem cell, they x-rayed my knees. They said, oh, well, your knees aren't bad. You still actually have some cartilage and everything in between. You still have padding in between. You're not bone on bone yet. And I said, great. So what can we do? Well, we're going to do this, and we're going to take some of that pain out. And they did. It was great. But their key was right there and then, just like you're saying. You have to keep moving.
Yeah.
And if you stop, all the work we've done here, it's not going to make any difference if you just sit on your behind and not do anything. Because when you get up, you got to keep that moving. You got to keep those joints going, and that's very important.
There are people who hurt so bad they can't exercise. So in turn, then they gain the weight because of inactivity, which in turn comes on the heart disease and the diabetes.
Yep.
So it's a tough balance for some people.
It is.
And it's just things we have to work through one piece at a time. But you touched on something a while ago. Every patient that's listening out there, whether they go to Texas County, Phelps Health, SMDH, if you don't have a provider right now that you can communicate with and go in and talk about whatever, then find someone else, because when you go in, you need to be able to voice what's important to you.
Your physician is your physician, but it should also be your friend.
Exactly.
And you need to be able to trust them with anything you have. And if you can't, or you don't feel that they're looking out for you, time to move on.
Exactly.
I did that. Had a physician, our family physician in St. Louis. My dad went to him for years. We went to their family for years. And I went up there and I did he said I needed to come up and take a blood test. I didn't tell me anything about fasting or anything. I got up there, took the blood test, and then he called me back. He said, well, your triglycerides are 600. And I said, well, why would that be? He goes, well, did you eat anything? I said, well, yeah. Well, you can't eat before you take the blood test. $500 for that blood test. He never tell me to fast. So I said, so what do you want me to do? Well, let's take another one. Well, that's another $500. Not deductible covering this yet. No insurance. They took a little off, but, not much. Got back up there and said, well, your blood pressure's a little bit high. I want to put you on blood pressure medication. I asked him a whole bunch of questions. It's not going to affect anything I do. I broadcast. I can't have nasal drainage or I can't have anything like that. Not going to happen. No. But I saw these bottles of this prescription right on his wall. And I thought, why do you have all those bottles there? Well, so you want to give me a sample? No, I want to make you go get it. Well, you already have it. Why do you have all these bottles? You're not going to give me a sample to try it. He goes, well, you'll like it. 3 days later, I had a coughing fit at a football game. Called him up. He refused to take my call. Refused.
Sure.
Put his nurse on there, and I said, well, look. I said, that doctor lied to my face. I said, he's on the take from getting that blood pressure medication because there are pill bottles in there, and he didn't give me one. And I said, so I'm done. I'm done with him. That's it. No more.
Communication wasn't there. Yeah.
I said, I can't do that. I can't. I don't trust him anymore.
That's one great thing about SMDH. There are many, many facilities now. You touched on the sample thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of facilities now do not allow drug reps in the building.
Right.
And I don't know how in the world that a provider is supposed to get the most updated, new drugs for the patient that's going to greatly benefit them if they don't have access to the drug reps. And so SMDH promotes that, is behind that, and it's a big service for the patient. There's a lot, especially in diabetes right now, tons of changes in diabetes. And these drugs are expensive, but hey, if we can get them on samples or get them on a cost share program through that company,
right.
It's an amazing. Did you know that insulin now for a lot of Medicare patients can be up to $400? Wow. Well, if I get 2 cases of insulin a month from a drug rep and I can help that patient out, it's the difference between whether they put food on the table or whether they buy medicine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, big deal.
Meeting. I guess we should finish. All right, so Jimmie, I'm going to put you on hold for a minute.
Okay.
We'll come right back to you. Very quickly, we did a staffing update. 8 came, 10 left. But that's all right. And there was reasons, and they talked about it, where other hospitals are giving incentives. A lot of people will take that, and then as many of them mentioned, a lot of them will come back once those incentives end.
The grass is not always greener at another hospital.
No.
You know, we're a good hospital, and there's a nursing staff shortage everywhere. It's not unique to SMDH. There's a hospital in Springfield right now that their entire nursing department is being ran by temps.
Wow.
They don't have any nurses.
Wow.
So we're at least fortunate we only have a few openings.
Yeah, very, very good. And so it's stabilizing. But again, watch it. Yeah, you're right. Grass is not always green on the other side. And then sometimes when you want to come back to where you were, there may not be availabilities. Yeah. You know, that does come up too. They gave a clinic update. We do want to remind everybody, Transformer Project, it's a 10 to 12 week lead time on transformers. So they're hoping to have it done by November 1st because there's a lot of prep that has to be done on this and getting this all put together.
Well, and God bless the county and the city for helping us.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And Intercounty's working with them too. So it is a big deal. We have a public tax meeting to set the tax rate for the hospital. That'll be at 5:45 August 16th. And then a meet and greet with the Delta Regional Community Health Systems, and that's going to be September 20th. That'll be by Zoom right prior to a board
Prior
meeting.
to the board meeting. And they're a great resource for the hospital.
Very good. Officers for next year. Do you know who they are? Do you remember?
I think so. So Ray Bruno's no longer chairman.
Right.
So now
Still on the board.
still
Just
on the
no longer
board.
chairman.
Yes, he did not step down. He still has quite a few years of his term to serve, so thank goodness for him. And his wife for being a great provider at our hospital. Mike Swires has assumed that position, and then we have one of these great systems where everybody just rolls up into the next seat. So now we have Willie as vice chair and
Willie
AJ
Strader,
as secretary.
And
So-
AJC, secretary. You did good.
Hey.
That's great. JoeAnn, thank you. I know you have
Thank
to
you.
go. You got to get to a meeting, so
Yeah, I
you
know.
take your water. We won't charge you for that
Take,
this
take
time.
my water and run.
And I'm gonna
Jimmie will
just
keep
talk-
you entertained for
Well, he
quite a
will,
while.
but-
Well, I'll certainly try.
Well, we'll wrap things up with Jimmie so you can get to your meeting. Thank you
Thank
again
you,
for
thank
coming
you.
in. JoeAnn Hammond from the Salem Memorial District Hospital and the CFO. We do appreciate all our information. So, Jimmie, I know you're excited to be on board. Your enthusiasm for SMDH and family medicine is coming out all over. This is a good move for you, isn't it?
Exactly. It was a great opportunity. I really, really want to thank the board, and Don Babb is amazing. For those of you, I'm telling you, the guy's kind of an open door policy deal. If you haven't met Don Babb, the interim CEO right now, you really should. Because when I walked in that door and told him that I was looking at other options, he made it happen. And he has a great vision for SMDH. And I truly believe it's going to happen. He's even made mention of a new hospital in the years to come. And I think that he's bringing on, I mentioned foundation a while ago. Well, for people who, and most lay people don't understand healthcare, but there's a lot to it. The first thing you have to have, just like when you build a house, is a solid foundation. You got to have us guys in the clinics seeing patients to refer to these specialists who are coming down.
Exactly.
And it's all just like a pyramid. And that's how it all comes together. But we are building a solid foundation. We've got a great team put together, and even more coming, of frontline healthcare providers. So, and Salem's in a unique position. I mean, when you look at the location of Salem and you look south and east and west, there's not anything Texas County has a great hospital,
Right.
but you look the other direction and
There's
all the way
nothing.
to Farmington or Poplar Bluff, that's a long way.
Yeah.
And there's some great care here for those patients that live between here and those places.
Absolutely. When the small Ellington Hospital shut down, that's a major blow for them because that was kind of your intermediate. I mean, it was a small hospital, but it was intermediate, and that's gone.
Exactly.
And when you don't have anything from basically Highway 67 over, that's a big area to cover, and our hospital does a great job. And we have a large hospital district to begin with.
Yeah.
It already goes outside the borders of Dent County and into Crawford County and down to Iron County and Reynolds County, Shannon
Sure.
County, and even in a little bit in Texas County to where it does serve, and some into Phelps. So it's a big district, a lot of different people out there who may not know where that district line is, I couldn't even give you a line because it really is kind of strange how they set that up, and I don't know how they ever came up with it.
Exactly.
But it is what it is, and that's where Salem has to serve. And some people don't realize, Jimmie, as Denton County, pretty rural. You got one city,
Sure.
and you got all these county roads. You have over like 5,000 miles of roads. It just seems like of gravel roads to get to places. It's not easy to find places when you have to get around and get around quickly. Get to Bunker, you got 20 minutes by highway, 22 minutes. But if you have to go back off Turtle Loop or something, you might be going for 45 minutes.
Exactly. That it's a terrible thing to have to talk about, but money. All morning here, since I've been here, we've talked a lot about money. But listen, right now people are struggling.
They are.
This gas, $5 a gallon. The cost of food went up.
Inflation,
So
everything.
the closer that you can drive to your health care facility, it makes a big difference. And you touched base on something a minute ago. You mentioned $500 for a lab draw. JoeAnn has worked really hard, along also a great provider for the patients has been the Denton County Health Department.
Right.
They offer these lab values at minimal cost. And I've had multiple patients who drove from Rolla and other areas to get their labs done at Salem when they had the health fair going,
Right.
or the Denton County Health Department. So that's a huge thing. You can come in once a year and have a physical, and you've got your office visit, and maybe $40 or $50 worth of labs.
Yeah.
Seriously, I can draw everything you need for an annual physical
You're right.
for under $75.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And health center offers it, Salem offers it on a lot of different items, and then they have what we were talking about earlier, the MRIs, the upcoming CTs, and they have the mammography unit over there, in which they do have a funding mechanism for that if women can't afford it, to where they don't have to pay anything. So the Salem Hospital is concerned about their community. That's the big key.
And it's important. I drove by when this transition was happening with me. I think it was a godsend. I drove by the facility one day, and it was just like a voice said, "Are you supposed to come here and improve, and help do your part for this community?" And I really think that's why I'm here. I think we're going to bring a huge population, and we're going to pull a lot of other people in. But the biggest thing is we're going to help to create a great hospital that everybody within the surrounding area is going to want to come to.
Absolutely. And with an addition of these new doctors, they're getting their privileges now. Man, that just
Absolutely.
that increases the capacity of what the hospital can do. People don't ignore it, because when you have those kind of doctors from Wash U that are going to come down once a month, they're going to talk to you. You talk about people that if you were in St. Louis, you'd have to wait a long time to go see.
Sure.
Trust me, it doesn't happen very often. And they're willing to come down here at a very reduced price to come and offer services. And these gentlemen are top-notch in their field. We're not talking about guys that are just getting underway, just graduated and getting started. They've been doing this for a long time, and they are recognized as some of the best.
It's all about networking.
It
Dr.
is.
Al's got a huge following in St. Louis that he can draw from, and I've been around a long time. I've been in the area 17 years now, so I've surrounded myself with great providers.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing I can do for you when you come see me, is if I don't have the answer, I need to know who does.
Yeah.
And we don't mess around. We'll punt if we need to, or we'll fix the problem here.
Yeah, and the nice thing is with SMDH Family Medicine is they're getting the providers in. You got Tiffany, a young doctor coming out, and boy, she's taking the bull by the horns and wanting to run. And her mom came on as helping out with nurse practitioner, and she's serving some outlying areas and doing things. It's a fantastic array of different people who can take care of you, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, when you look back at the last 2 to 3 years for SMDH, it's been a hard struggle. There's been a lot of change. There were some great people who I'm sure lost their jobs. There's still a lot of great people there.
Yeah.
But you have to look to the future. And I really feel positive about where it's headed just in my first 2 or 3 weeks there. I see great things on the horizon. So I hope everybody remembers this talk, that in 3 years from now, SMDH is going to be in a completely different place than it has been.
I have to agree with you there, my friend. Well, Jimmie, I wanted to tell you thank you for coming in, spending
Absolutely.
some time with us. We welcome you to SMDH Family Medicine. Look forward to seeing you again. after maybe a couple of months, maybe coming back in, telling us how
Absolutely.
everything is going. We'd love to hear from you. I'm sure Jason Edwards can schedule you in on those interviews.
Exactly.
He loves to do that
If we
stuff.
have patients that want to talk about a certain topic, I'd love to come back in and talk about that.
Okay, we can do
And
that
so
too.
call in here and let Stan know, and we'll get a program set up.
Very good. Thank you, my friend. Good to
Okay,
see
thank you,
again.
sir.
Very good. That's our interview at the Salem Memorial District Hospital with Jimmie Bell. He's going to be coming on at SMDH August 1st, right?
August 1st.
August 1st. And I do want to remind you again that if you are going to be going SMDH Family Medicine beginning August 1st, you will have to update your information, your paperwork, your insurance, everything. They're changing from all scripts to CPSI, and so that will have to be, have to get it done there. All right, we'll be back. We have civic happenings and things coming up in a moment.